Welcome, everybody. So glad you're here today to learn about how states and districts are really leading the way with social emotional learning. You'll hear from both expert researchers in the field and from practitioners giving you that really, on the ground sense of how this walks and talks, what is social emotional learning, and how it's really advancing attainment for kids.
When it started 5 years ago, they had 248 out-of-school suspensions in like K through 3 or 4. Last year was 20. So talk about just butts in the seats. Step one, you got to be in the classroom or you're not gonna learn anything. And this is the only thing that has sustained itself through 5 different superintendents was the SEL program.
There have literally been hundreds of studies in the field that show that social and emotional learning, when implemented well, works at the preschool, elementary, middle, and high school, across urban, rural, and suburban contexts. There's a return on investment with SEL, an $11 return on $1 investment.
When I came to Ketchum Elementary School, the student satisfaction rate the previous year was 73%. So it was that year that we decided to really focus on social emotional learning. It was a way of responding to student needs, especially students that have multiple adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, or students that have experienced trauma prior to entering into the school setting. We were extremely excited to have our student satisfaction percentage raised from 84% to 94% that year after we made a solid commitment to social emotional learning.
If it's good for kids, then every kid should be exposed to this. But evidence and return on that investment is when you actually see students employing those strategies. It's not just for teachers, it's not just for kids, it's for everybody in the organization. Everybody in this room works with somebody that hasn't agreed with them, right? But we need to be able to do that in a constructive manner. We need to teach those skills, and those skills start at kindergarten. Give me the ball. No. Whack. No, that's not what we do, right?
Rich social emotional learning is essential to student wellness. We're not just looking at how do we support 100 schools or how do we support 350 kids. We're looking in Wisconsin about how do we support over 400 school districts. This cannot be done by schools alone. When we're talking about social emotional learning, we are not talking about just social emotional learning. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about AODA. We're talking about trauma-sensitive schools. It's all part of the same page.
Studies show that as much as 15 years out, you're still seeing the benefits, which is what leads to that return on investment that was mentioned, the $11 return for every dollar spent. We don't want to make schools have to choose between having internet for their classrooms and having social and emotional supports. We need to fully fund the Every Student Succeeds Act. This was a bipartisan bill. That means that there are lawmakers across the country who believe in its importance, but it needs to be fully funded at the level that was appropriated.
ESSA has unleashed innovation at the state level, at the district level, at the school level, which is a very important advance, I think, an opportunity for the country.
But here's what the research is telling us, and here's how the social and emotional skills help, and here's what's going on with their amygdala and their prefrontal cortex, and to say, look, here's how we, got to come together and teach each other on how best to do it, because literally, our country in some sense is hanging in the balance here, whether or not we actually figure this out.
We are doing a lot of focus on adult SEL, and this is a little tricky because you can't go out and tell adults, your social skills aren't so good, maybe you ought to do something about that, right? I firmly believe that for a lot of adults, they have the skills, but they don't have the protective factors in place to access them and genuinely use them. So part of our efforts at the state in a bigger, broader context is looking at the wellness of our staff. Because if people don't feel safe themselves, they're going to have a very hard time connecting with the kids and being able to model those skills as well.
Research does show that teachers matter greatly for students' SEL. And if you have teacher shortages in your state, which I bet you do, this can keep teachers in the classroom. We now need to make a shift. We need to think about how we can make classrooms more collaborative, more engaging, so that students are working with each other and they're taking agency.
If you see last school year, our student satisfaction rate went up to 97%. The SEL approach in our school is not just a teacher approach, it's not just a principal approach, it is a collaborative approach.
There is a lot going on the ground in diverse states, in diverse districts, in diverse communities, rural, suburban, urban, red states, blue states.
I got emotional. I was like, how do we bottle this and show the community what's happening in these schools right now? It's incredible. If you work here in town, this is a bipartisan effort. We've got to get this message out because this is working. The stats are here, the research is here, the personal stories are here. We have enough superintendents now to tell these stories from a leadership perspective. We're seeing the difference in the kids. We're seeing the difference in scores. So we just got to keep pushing this out.
We close achievement gaps, right? So you can make the graduation rate go up. But if you're not closing achievement gaps with students with disabilities, English language learners, minority subgroups, then what's the purpose of raising the gap? Because that means you're only helping the same old kids. We get to stand tall and proud this year and say, we have closed gaps for every subgroup of students.
It's critically important for us to change the trajectory of the country. That's what we're doing. And that's how I stumbled into this, just to say, look, we're not going to change the neighborhoods in Warren until we change the schools, until we get kids leaving the school and going out into the neighborhood and de-escalating situations because of the tools that they learned in the schools. That's what this is all about. And I just want to say how absolutely inspirational you are to me as a legislator, just trying to help you push this stuff out.